The Badgers have a true freshman that is ready to explode. I think Nicolas Clayton is the next star for the Badgers. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Haringsand. Thank you for making this your first listen, being an everydayer, being part of the community. I appreciate the heck out of all of y'all. Today, we are talking about defensive edge preview. So those kind of big edges, outside linebackers, superlatives, and a star in the making. To help us break it down, Kevin B. back on the show for the second time. Let's start here, man. I am hearing when Nicolas Clayton committed, I did a thing on it. I said, this is a big-time get, one of the best gets in the class. And listen, it wasn't hard to see. He was a four-star player from Florida. I wasn't exactly going out on a limb. Everything since then has only gotten more hype. I've been hearing from inside the program. He's been putting on weight. Can he live up to the hype this year?
Yeah, I think so. The strength and conditioning program has been really huge for him this year, it sounds like. And really, it was just kind of getting his weight up and so he could handle these Big Ten offensive linemen. But I don't really see a ton of players in front of him that are going to prevent him from getting a lot of playing time.
Yeah, I think with Clayton, and I've said this before with freshmen, if you're going to play early, you got to bring something that is a little unique on the roster, because you're not going to have more experience than anybody else. You're not going to have more veteran guile, but there's nobody with his burst on the roster. There's just not. So he brings something unique, and I think because of that, he's going to play, man. I think he is like a third down guy, third and long. You're not setting him up to play against Iowa on 1st and 10 where he's taking on a pulling guard. But, dude, I think this guy could be a stud year one, and I think he could be the best pass rusher year one. I said it. I think he could be the best pass rusher on this roster this year.
Yeah, and that's not really saying a ton because we looked at what we got from last year. There wasn't a ton of production at that position. So I think it's pretty easy to outpace last year's production for him. Like I said, there's not a ton of competition, at least at his ceiling of level that he's at. I think that he can definitely reach that. And there's no reason why he should be held back like this year. Just because he's a true freshman, I don't think that should really matter too much.
Well, I'm going to break down, who are we talking about here? And then I'm going to kick a question over to you. Do you think this group is better than last year? So what we're looking at here is really kind of outside linebackers and those big edges. We're talking about Mason Reiger, Michael Gardner, Aaron Witt, Corey Walker, Jalen Williams. And then on the those are kind of the big edges. And on the outside linebacker side, you have Tyrese Fearby, Nicolas Clayton, that freshman, Darryl Peterson coming back. He's up to 260. You got Aaron Witt, who's still in the program. You got to root for. Samuel Ateju is a true freshman. Won't play this year. I think it's tremendous upside. A couple of those guys in that edge spot. Reiger's a transfer from Louisville. Corey Walker coming over. He's 297, 300-pounder. Michael Gardner's 300 pounds. Big picture question. We're going to break down these players a little bit more when we get into our superlatives. But big picture, is this group better than last year? And if so, how much?
Yeah, I think so. And like we just said a little bit before, that I don't think they could be too much worse. A lot of these guys are transfers again, which is a little concerning. But I got a feeling that we're year 3 in this defense. I think they're going to have it figured out a little bit more. We've got better size at these positions too. So I think there's no reason why it can't be better this year. I think there's a lot of pressure on Tressel to really figure this defense out. So it has to be, really, in my opinion. And I think it will be, especially you got a versatile guy like Aaron Witt coming back. Still has, I believe, if I'm correct, 3 years of eligibility left. So he could be on the team for quite a while. Yeah, well, you had the COVID season and then a couple of medical red shirts. And then I believe last year was his first full season playing for the Badgers. That was non-COVID.
That's wild, man. Also, just really easy guy to root for. Coaches like him, a good guy in the room. Yeah, I think it's better too. To go back to the question, it's better than last year. But like you said, the bar was extremely low. I've said this a lot, but it bears repeating. This team was dead last in the country in tackles for loss. Dude, how is that possible at Wisconsin? Dead last. So, yeah, it's going to be better. What's your biggest concern?
Yeah. I think just getting I think the tackles for loss will be okay. Witt had some of those tackles for loss last year too. But I think just getting more sacks out of that position, we just didn't see that very often. And that caused a lot of these guys that were here to leave to go to Illinois or wherever else they transferred to. So I think just getting more pressure on the passer is really important, and not having to rely so much on the interior defensive linemen to cause havoc. And we saw that kind of work at times last year, but I don't think you should rely too heavily on those guys in the middle to get so much push. You hope to kind of crash those edges and get to the quarterback a little quicker that way.
Yeah, I think for me, and I'm curious what you think on this, my biggest concern is like fitting all these. It's not the land of mismatched toys. Like, it's not that, but you have all these new pieces coming in, right? And I don't know if they did a great job last year trying to fit their new pieces together. I think there were some guys where we wondered maybe should play more or less, or why are you doing this with the scheme? And now you look at this, Tyrus Fearby is going to want to play. He's a junior. Sebastian Cheeks is going to want to play. Darryl Peterson came back for a reason. You got Walker and Garner that are going to want to play. Mason Reiger, if he's healthy, is going to want to play. We just talked about you got to find a room for Nicolas Clayton. Is it going to be tough to manage the A, egos in this room, and B, like, it's got to work right away because the schedule's tough. It might take a while for Tressel and this defensive staff to find the right pieces, and that worries me a little bit because last year I think we were frustrated with that. Is that a worry for you, or was last year just they didn't have enough pieces, and that was the issue? It wasn't mismanagement of pieces.
I think it's a good problem to have too many edge rushers. That's really the big question is the quality. We just didn't have that quality, I don't think, last year. The pieces, like you said, didn't mesh very well. Yeah. And now a lot of those guys are gone. So hoping that the pieces bringing in the freshmen, all that can kind of gel a little bit better. I feel pretty good about this group overall, and they're going to be rotating guys, I think, at that position quite a bit too, to keep them fresh, hopefully. So that should help mitigate the issue of not getting enough playing time, I believe. So that's kind of where I'm at.
No, it's a good point. You need a couple lines of people, so you need theoretically to be able to go at least 4, 5, 6 deep, because throughout the course of the season you're going to have injuries too. So you need your 2 deep, but you need a few people ready to step in behind them. It feels good to have that size. Again, a couple of these guys 300 pounds. They brought in some big dudes from Corey Walker, for example. I think he's going to be in my superlatives too. But you're talking about a guy who had 5.5 sacks last year, who had 2.5 sacks the year before that. You would kill for that at Wisconsin. Now, obviously, level of competition is a little different, but you brought in some guys with production and size, and I feel really good about that. Is there any other player here? I talked about Nicolas Clayton. That's what I led off with. Any player here that you really look at and you circle and you say, I can't wait to see that dude this year?
Yeah, I think Darryl Peterson a little bit, just because he's been on the team so long. This is his 5th year, and you were just really waiting for that breakout moment to finally come. And he's finally gotten up to the weight that's, I guess you would say, acceptable at that position. He was always really light, so it's kind of cool to get him up to what you want for a playing weight. And he stuck around for a reason, hopefully. And I think it's time to see him kind of cash in on all this experience that he's had on the team. And spent 2 years with the previous regime, now 3 years with this regime. Really stuck out through the really hard times. So excited to kind of see where he's at. I would like to see him really have this great breakout year that I think we've been waiting to see for quite a while now.
Yeah, him coming back at 260 is interesting to me. I like that he's back because he brings a lot of veteran poise. I know the coaches like him. Having talked to him a little bit, I think he's a really good guy in the locker room, a good culture setter. At 260, I think he is going to be your first and kind of second down run setter. Like, I will take the tight end, I will set the edge, I will turn it back to the inside, I'll play physical, and then on third down, let's bring in Reiger and Clayton, or Cheeks and Clayton, or Reiger and Cheeks, or whatever. I think that's how ideally it plays out. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of good with that as well. I think he's okay, probably in coverage, not a super strong suit, but I think definitely he's your starter, I would say, in a way, de facto starter, one of the few seniors at that position. I could definitely see him, like we said, wanting to rotate, getting your faster, twitchier guys out on third down would be a great idea. It keeps both fresh and not like, have him out during the entire drive, just killing himself. So I'm excited to kind of see him hopefully reach that potential that we've been seeing flashes of throughout these 5 years. And now he's a real leader of the team too. So it's really his opportunity to take.
Heck yeah, man. All right, we're going to take a quick second. We're going to come back. Who's the X factor on this group? And who is the future star outside of Nicolas Clayton? We're going to talk about all that and more. Today's Locked On Badgers with a great guest. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Gametime. Gametime is our FanDuel. I apologize. Over at FanDuel. FanDuel is your incredible spot. I talk about FanDuel all the time because they're a longtime partners of the show. FanDuel is your amazing spot for all your betting this summer. Again, summer, you got baseball going on, soccer, golf. There's a lot of great action, and all of it is over there on FanDuel. Right now, it's futures, it's parlays, it's teasers, it's spreads, every type of action you want. And the user interface is simple. If you haven't done it, it's easy to start, easy to figure out. There's great customer support. And when you get paid, you actually get that payout quick and easy, no questions asked. It's not painful like some other sites that we've used in the past, that I've used in the past. FanDuel is your great destination to spice up your sports weekend with live in-game betting as well, which means even if the game gets out of hand, you can still have some fun with it. It is a great, great spot. And right now, if you're a new customer, you can get $5 and win $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's an incredible offer. Open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's jump back into this. We got superlatives. I want to kick it to Kevin for the first one. First question here, man. Most exciting player in this group?
Yeah, I would say maybe Mason Reiger, just because we've seen what he's done in the past. If he can avoid injury, I'm just so worried about that a little bit. But because we've seen guys that have, kind of dealt with injury issues in the past, and it just continues to linger throughout their career. So if he can come back to what we're used to seeing, I think that is just really could be a huge, huge boost to this position. I think he's probably the most, when healthy, the safest bet probably of all these edge guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? When healthy, he probably is, but he's also the riskiest bet because, he's had health issues. But you're talking about a guy that at Louisville had a lot of production against quality opponents, against Notre Dame, against Clemson, against Miami. He's a big X factor, and I like that you're going there with the X or with the most exciting with Reiger. I want to say Clayton again. I just think when I think of exciting, I think of boom bust. I think of athletic traits. Nicolas Clayton, he could just be a monster this year. He could have the type of freshman impact that is rare at Wisconsin and is rare in college football in general. Like, think back to Chris Borland bursting on the scene, kind of, where he was rushing the passer. And I can't remember if he was a true freshman or redshirt freshman when he did that, but he made just an instant impact. I think Clayton can be that. He's going to be my pick for most exciting, but I definitely know where you're going with Reiger. Who's the most underappreciated guy in this group at the end of the year?
I guess kind of like under the radar is that what you're also trying to say?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Under the radar, underappreciated, steady Eddie.
Yeah. I would say like Witt probably again. He doesn't get talked to. He's not in like the same realm as the other guys. Is like, oh wow, he's going to be for sure a surefire starter, and he'll be putting up tons of sacks. So, but yeah, he definitely contributes. Had some nice tackles against Alabama, even in the Iowa game when I was watching some like all 32 or all 22 of the film. I was like, wow, I wasn't really looking for him in that, but then I just kept seeing him make tackles. And I was like, wait, who is this again? And I looked back at the number and I was like, whoa, okay. He's actually looking more almost like a middle linebacker, some of the tackles he's piling up. So I'm pretty excited about him. And I think, yeah, he's a guy that kind of flies under the radar just because he hasn't played much in the 4 years he's been on the team and dealt with just tons and tons of bad injuries. So I'm really excited that he's back, a guy that we weren't even sure if would ever come back.
Yeah, I like that you're going with Witt because I almost overlooked him a little bit in this depth chart because, again, there's so many bodies. But you go back to Witt is a guy that the coaches have really always been excited about. They've always wanted to see more of him. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. If he's able to stay healthy, it goes back to your original point of it's a good thing to have a bunch of bodies. It's a good thing to have more depth. And he's a guy that, again, on first, second down can really play physical, can play at the line of scrimmage. I like him. I think for me, Steady Eddie, I'm going to go Corey Walker. I just think he flies under the radar, man. You're talking about a guy who's played 3 years of college ball. He's a grown 300-pounder. He had 5.5 sacks last year in D1. Again, I think sometimes you're looking at players coming from D2 or D3, and it's like, gosh, is it going to translate? You don't really know. And I understand that he played at Western Michigan, so he's not playing. But he played D1 football, had 5.5 sacks, played all 12 games, played a ton of football, was physical, played against us, and there had some nice clips against us last year. I just think he's getting overlooked. Like, I see a guy in the Haringsand mold, not as good as Matt Haringsand, who was an NFL draft pick, but just kind of that lunch pail guy who can eat up a double team, who can stand up an offensive tackle, who's going to get occasional pressure, work hard, and just control the trenches a little bit at his spot. I think he's massively underrated in this offseason.
Yeah, wouldn't we kill for Matt Haringsand right now? That just I would so miss guys like that. We really didn't realize what we had until it was gone.
Yeah, that's like, you never know what you have until it's gone. You never know it's the good times until it's over. Like Haringsand, Loudermilk, Benton, like we had some dogs on the defensive line, man, and they weren't highly recruited or highly regarded necessarily, but they were dogs. You're right. We'd kill for a Matt Haringsand. Let's go here. Future star, non-Nicolas Clayton.
Yeah. Just looking at some of the young guys that are coming onto the team. Jalen Williams, redshirt freshman this year. Hoping that
Jalen will be a true freshman this year.
Oh, true freshman. Okay. And then you got Leteju as well coming up here. So we've got a couple of young guys that are, depending on what recruiting site you follow, are fairly highly rated, and they've got good size. So I'm really excited to see hopefully some of them this year. Obviously they're probably not going to get as much hype and as much playing time as Nick Clayton, but they definitely have that bigger size to them, and I feel like maybe a few years down the road, a lot more playing time as these upperclassmen kind of graduate out of the system. So I'm hoping we don't have to go to the transfer portal every single year for that outside linebacker position like we have the past 2 years. I'm hoping that we can kind of just rely on some of these recruiting classes to help fill those positions instead of, constantly, almost like backfilling every single year and getting, recruiting above our guys, and I think at some point that gets a little bit frustrating for the younger guys. Is like, well, when am I ever going to get my opportunity? If you just keep getting some older players with more experience over me, it's hard for them to get in there. So I like getting guys involved early. It kind of, maybe they're not always the most ready, but yeah, even like you said, just playing third down can dip their toes in there a little bit and keep them engaged with this team.
Well, you're going to see that this year with Clayton, I think. To your point, a lot of people, I think, would go Jalen Williams with this. He was a big get in last year's class, 4-star guy. I'm going to go Samuel Leteju. Dude, I love his upside. I think he's going to be a monster for us. He's newer to football, but he's got a big frame. He's athletic. He grew up playing other sports. Really, really good kid. I think the intangibles are there. I think he's going to be a monster. I think Samuel Leteju might be one of the best players in this class when it's all said and done. And it won't be this year, but I think 2 years from now, he's going to be terrorizing Big Ten backfields. Give me this one. Who should we be talking about more?
Yeah. And I mean, we've kind of talked about quite a few of these guys. We haven't, I guess, Tyrese Fearberry, we haven't talked a ton about. He's transferred a little bit around college football, and he should be an impactful player, I would think. We don't know a ton about him. We haven't heard a ton about him throughout the offseason. But he's a guy that I would kind of look at and like say, yeah, maybe he's a little bit kind of flying under the radar.
Yeah, I think Fearberry's a good one. He's got a long frame, former 4-star kid. I'm going to go Sebastian Cheeks, who actually I think showed some burst last year. It came into the program as an inside linebacker. They moved him outside. Fast, athletic. I think he can turn the corner. He's a little one-dimensional, I think. Like, I don't think he's got a lot in his bag as a pass rusher, but I think what he has is quickness and speed and leverage, which that plays. You don't need a ton else in college football. I'm interested to see what he can do this year if he can find a way into that rotation. I want to take a quick second for our friends of the show. Again, awesome guest, second time on the show for Kevin B. I'm excited for that. We're going to come back and grade the position and talk about our all-time favorite edge rusher, edge player at Wisconsin. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. Also want to take a quick second to say thank you for tuning into the show. Really do appreciate every single one of you. Kevin, let's grade the position. How would you grade this position and we're just grading it for this year. So for people who maybe remember some of my other positional previews, we used to do a grade for this year and for the future. But honestly, the portal and there's been so much movement all the time, it makes it hard for me to put grades out 3 years from now where I think this group is going to be, because it could completely turn over. So just for this season, how would you grade this group of players?
I'm going to be pretty optimistic. I'm going to say B-. I feel like the potential is there. There's not a ton of guys that we've seen other than a little bit of Witt and Peterson. But there's a ton of numbers on the team at that position that we haven't seen. They've either just got on the team or transferred in. So just based on potential, I'll give it a B-. I wish we would have a little bit of a crystal ball and could look into the future, say, okay, maybe they fit in the scheme a certain way and they really gel well. And we could kind of say, okay, they played, 2 years in the system already and they've been really great. It would be more ideal to grade it that way. But most of these guys haven't. This is their first season with the Badgers. And so it's really kind of a tough position group to get a feel for as far as what's their ceiling, what's their floor. It feels high. We'd hope the floor is not very low compared to last year. You feel like it couldn't be too much lower. So I'm feeling sort of optimistic. A lot of new guys in that kind of give you hope for the future.
Yeah, I like that you brought up floor and ceiling. I'm actually going to give it 2 grades. I'm going to give it a floor grade, which I think is a C. I think the floor for this group is an average-ish group, which is better than it was last year. That would be a step up. A C is passing. A C is okay. You're not going to get an engineer job at NASA with C's, but you can go be middle management. You can build a life out of C's. I've done it. I think the ceiling is maybe a B+, because I think Clayton could be something special. And if Riger is healthy, I think Corey Walker is super solid. And then behind him, you have depth with Teeks and Gardner, Witt. I think you have enough depth if a few of those pieces hit. This could be a B+ group. It's not. I wouldn't go any higher than that as my ceiling. What do you feel about my guardrails there? A C floor, B+ ceiling.
Yeah, and I mean I'm a B- kind of right in the middle of all that. So I feel pretty good about that. Yeah, I could see it not. Maybe it just doesn't gel again like last year, and we just don't get any efficiency, and there's just no one guy that stands out. And we end up getting more sacks from our middle linebacker again. So I'm hoping I could see maybe as low as maybe a C-, D+ if they're no effect. They're bad against the run. They're bad against, getting to the quarterback, and we're having to rely again on those middle guys, either linebacker or lineman, to get that pass rush. So I guess it could be pretty low if Clayton just doesn't develop and doesn't see the field, and the other guys just come in and just do not fit the scheme at all.
Yep, I hear that. And it's always a risk with portal guys. You just don't fully know. There's a little bit more of a risk there. Give me we're going to wrap the show up here. Give me your all-time favorite edge for the Badgers.
Yeah, I would say Andrew Van Ginkel. He was just amazing. A transfer, actually. He just had such a huge impact from year one on the team. The Big Ten championship is just a memorable moment. I remember watching that with my friends, and then he gets the pick 6, and you're like, wow, this guy is really good. And I don't even think we knew how good he really was until all of a sudden he made it to the NFL and has made a really nice career playing for some teams out there. So, I would say Andrew Van Ginkel is he's got a fun name and is a really fun player and makes a lot of huge, impactful plays throughout the game.
Yeah, stylistically, he's just fun to watch too with his massive frame. I mean, that dude does look like a werewolf out there. I'm a little older than you. I went with Erasmus James off the top of my head. Just a lethal dude off the edge. Ended up being a first-round pick. I think it was the Vikings. And then a little more recent, I really I really loved it took him a while to find a home, and this is kind of an under the radar one. Leon Jacobs was built like a Decepticon. Like he was built like a Sherman tank. Like he was when they finally figured out we're just gonna put this great athlete on the edge. He was awesome. Ended up going to the Jacksonville Jaguars and carving out a career there. I really liked watching him play. I know I was talking to someone else about this, and he mentioned TJ Watt was his also a great option there. There's no wrong answers here, but those are the ones I went with. Anybody else that was in your mind for like, I love AVG, but I'm going to go, but I got to go AVG, but I wanted to mention this guy.
Yeah, Jack Cichy too. You know, you've seen so many guys in that 2015 to 2017, 18 season that were just like, wow, we had an embarrassment of riches at the outside linebacker positions. Like, well, I don't know. Who do you want to play? Who do you even want to start? I'm not sure. It's like, you know, you feel bad for like benching some of these guys because they would definitely be starters on other teams. So, we just had an embarrassment of riches there for a while at that outside linebacker position. It felt like we almost couldn't do anything wrong. It was like, oh, okay, this guy's graduating. Okay, that's fine. I'm sure we'll get the next guy, and he might even be better. So we weren't too worried about it. And then all of a sudden, some of these guys graduated, and we never really filled in those gaps, and we never really replaced those players efficiently. So, we got really spoiled there in the mid 2010s and late 2010s as we were just getting all pro, Pro Bowl talent basically in the NFL every single year, and it was just like, wow, this is almost feels too easy.
Linebacker, you baby, we were cranking them out. It'd be nice to get back to that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's been Edge Preview. Kevin B joining the show for the second time. Appreciate you, my friend. For everyone tuning in, thank you for this on Wisconsin and a bunch of more great content coming up as always. Appreciate you supporting the community and jumping on the show.